So today we're coming back to this horse after 6 weeks, and we've not used the grinder on this horse before. So today we're going to just try to catch on video introduction to the grinder with him, and we'll see how things go. So just a little bit of a pre-warning here. There's probably going to be a little bit of movement where he moves away from it. He may be a little bit afraid. We're just going to work through that so we can use this video as an introduction to the grinder, horses that have not had the grinder used on them before. So with that, he's pretty friendly, but he can also be a little bit jumpy. So usually what we'll do is start out. I usually start out where I'm about 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 feet away from the horse, depending on what I think their reaction is going to be, and I'll just turn the grinder on. And we'll see what the horse's reaction is to the grinder being turned on. Now the last thing that I want to do is, when he walks away, I don't want to turn the grinder off, because that'll be teaching him that when he leaves, the grinder goes off and goes away. So, alright, so see, that's not so bad. He jumped at first and jumped and moved away. We have to allow the horse to do that, to move away, but then try to get them to reach out and touch the grinder. Let us come to them, let us touch them with it. And I don't shut the grinder off until we get to a point where the horse is more relaxed. Well, he cocked the hind foot here. I don't know if you could see that in the video, but he cocked the hind foot and he just kind of stood here and let me touch him all over with the grinder. So I'm going to start the grinder again. And I'm just going to go to touch him. Alright, so that doesn't seem like it's going to be a really big deal. It might be a different situation when we come and touch the foot with the grinder. But we'll see what happens. So we will do a little bit of work, and seeing as how he's relaxed on the hind foot here, I'm going to start on the hind foot. Sometimes it's better with horses that are initially jumpy like this to start with a hind foot rather than starting with a front foot. We'll see what his reaction is here. I'm going to just drop my lead rope on the ground. I'll put a foot on it so that if he does jump away, I don't just lose him completely. So one thing that I'll do here is when he's got a hind foot up, I'm going to test him. Let's just turn the grinder on. Okay, that's pretty good. He's got a little bit of tension in him. This really isn't any worse than what he normally does to me when I'm trimming with hand tools as well. grinder on again. I'm going to stop for just a second. The reason that I came up into this position to start my trim today was that he was resisting going back there. And if he's already resisting and he's pulling against me and I touch the grinder to him, if he decides to kick, I'm going to get thumped a pretty good one. So he wanted to come forward here. I figured, well, okay, fine, we'll come forward and I'll touch you, and if you decide to jump, his foot's going to go back there. It's not going to catch me. He's got a little bit of tension. I don't know if you could hear it in the video, but he released the sigh. Just took a deep breath. He was holding his breath there for a while. He took a deep breath and he let go with a nice sigh. So that's good that he's kind of relaxing. We'll let him check out, check out the grinder, touch it, and move on to another foot here. While I'm working on this foot, I'll have Aaliyah kind of zoom in with the camera so we can see what we're doing on the foot. Just like 6 weeks ago, this horse does not grow very quickly, and so we don't have really a lot of vertical length to take off. So our primary part of this trim is just going around the perimeter of the foot and rebeveling that foot. So we're not doing a heel length reduction really very much. We might take a 1/16 of an inch off the heel, a 1/16 of an inch off the toe height here. But what I'll do first is I'll go around the foot and bevel the foot and reduce that circumference of the outside circumference of the foot, and then adjust my hoof wall length. To speed this up and eliminate burning up the battery, using a lot of battery power, I'll start this trim with the nippers. Just helps reduce the amount of time the grinder's on the foot, and not that it creates heat or anything like that. It just ends up that doing it this way is just a little bit faster than using the grinder to do this 100%. Okay, so we do the initial cut around the perimeter to reduce that perimeter. And we're going to come back with the grinder and use the grinder like we would be using the rasp and smooth that up. Now what I want to do, I want to turn the grinder on. Touch in here, not really a big deal. Alright, so like I said, we did the initial trim around the outside perimeter, then came back and adjusted that height, took off about a 1/16 of an inch of height. I left, leaving that hoof wall, say, level with the callus, or slightly above the callus. Alright, so that's going to be it for that foot. We did very well. So this isn't a traumatic thing for him today. Now, of the two horses that are here at this farm, he does stand better than the other horse, and we had a bit of an issue with the other horse last time that we had to give him some time to move around, and he jumped around a little bit, even working with hand tools. I may try to work with the grinder on that particular horse too, but if he's too jumpy, I'm going to stop, and we'll approach that at a different time, possibly in another 6 weeks. But it's a good thing that we can work with the grinder on this guy today, because if we turn around, we've got the other horse in the stall right here behind us in the lean-to. He's here. He can hear the grinder. He can see what we're doing. He can see that his buddy here is not afraid of it, really. And that's how you can get other horses that are afraid of the grinder accustomed to the grinder being used on them. So I have found that it works very well for them to see other horses being trimmed with a grinder and hearing the noise if they have been too jumpy with trying to introduce the grinder to them in the past, which I have tried that on these guys in the past, and they just did not do well. And they needed to learn to stand still on the lead rope, just ground tied. Okay, so we've been working on these guys, or I've been working on these guys for about a year now, just or a little less than a year, each six weeks, and ground tying, and they've learned to stand still for me, just being ground tied. That is a very big part of this too, is that the horse has to have your trust. They've got to know what their job is when you show up to trim, and if they know that it's their job to just stand still and behave, it makes the whole process a lot easier. So he moved here because he got a little bit curious about what was taking me so long to finally get to work here. And that's okay. He actually turned a little bit, which is a good thing, so that his tail is, we're in a little bit different direction with the wind. So it'll be better for us anyhow. So this foot here, you see we just trimmed the bars a little bit. We've got a nice solid frog. We're not going to have really much work to do on that frog at all. We don't really have a whole bunch of excessive hoof wall length. So again, like the opposite hind foot, we're going to go around this outside perimeter. Just put a bevel on that foot. Okay, so now we change sides of the horse, we change sides of the brain. So let's just reintroduce him to this here. He's a bit more relaxed on this foot than he was on the other foot to start with. So that's a good thing. Hopefully we'll just follow through and everything's going to be just great. So as you can see, we've got a little bit of wall separation here. The ground that they live on here with the limestone screenings, or out in the dirt pasture with the grass. And we've been getting a fair amount of rain here the last month or so, and so the foot has been soft, and with fly stomping they've been causing a bit of separation there. So that's there's not a whole heck of a lot I can do about it for a barefooted horse at this point in time, other than I'm going to bring this toe back to the outside edge of this unpigmented hoof wall just a little bit, and we'll try to reduce the leverage on that toe. Aaliyah, how did that show up on the
You can
film?
see the splitting pretty well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we want to just see the difference and how that finished up there. Okay. So the other thing I want to point out is that notice that when I first picked up the foot and I touched the grinder to it with the battery pack in, let him feel the vibration, and then come back when I started grinding at the toe. I started at the toe on purpose because I wanted to be able to touch that very, very lightly with the grinder disc. I don't want to just come into that foot on a horse that you've not trimmed consistently with the grinder before. You don't want to just come into that foot with the grinder disc and bear down on it a lot. Just feather it across that foot, touch it lightly, let them start to feel the vibration, and as you feel that the horse is not giving you a reaction to that, then you can increase that pressure, increase your movement, and just try to feel through the horse's leg how they're tolerating that vibration feeling and the noise and all of that. So you're going at it gradually in the beginning. Now you notice that as we went along there, he was standing just fine, he's completely relaxed, and so I increased my pressure, I increased the speed that I was doing the work at, and he was just fine. So use your judgment on that. The other thing is the wind was blowing his tail into my work, so put that tail behind your hip, between his leg and your hip, and hold that tail there out of the way. There's not really a big need to be wrapping the tail up and doing all kinds of stuff that takes 10 minutes to do between the wrapping it up and unwrapping it. That's extra time. You can be just perfectly safe with tucking that tail away between your hip and the horse's leg. Get it to stay there. If the flies are really bad, use fly spray. It's really very simple. Hey buddy, good job. So this front foot, we already know that he doesn't go very quickly. We're going to probably just go around this foot, around the outside perimeter on the right front foot here, and reduce that diameter of the foot, and then shorten that foot a 1/16 of an inch in the heels and in the toe on the vertical length, and that'll be about it. So we'll go to work on this one here. And you can see that he's relaxed. If Aaliyah can see him, he's got his head turned around here. He's touching me and saying, hey, what you doing? He's okay with things. And that's perfectly fine. You know, it's a confidence builder for the horse to know what you're doing, be able to smell you. I know there's a lot of farriers out there that don't like horses touching them when they're working on them. That's not me. I have learned that the more I can let a horse touch me, the more confidence that they can build in you as a farrier, and the more confidence they can build with just being okay with standing here. If someone was up there trying to hold his head, he might be moving all over this paddock, and we'd have nothing but a headache on our hands. So as long as the horse is standing here comfortably, I don't care if they turn around and touch me. If they turn around and bite me, that's a different story. Then he's gonna get a flap of my hand in his face or something or another like that, or we'll have to do something else to keep his teeth off of me. But you're not gonna find very many horses that really bite. There's a couple that I have that I work on that are real smart Alex, and they do get a little bit nippy, but usually if they get nippy and they get a good swat in the lips from the hand, they will generally learn that they've gone beyond the boundary that they should have, and they don't want to get a swat from the hand. So it's not a swat that's vicious or anything like that. It's just meant to get a point across. Remember that these animals, they bite and they kick each other, and they usually when they do those things, they're out to actually hurt each other. And you know, I'm not out to hurt the horse when I'm here working on him, but I'm here to stay safe if possible. He's got to do a little bit of yoga here. Oh my goodness, yeah. Let's bend it. Let's bend it. We're almost done. There you go. Okay, so we're going to touch this foot with a battery pack. Not a big deal. So if you ever got a client that comments to you that, well, I've got an Arabian and they're a really flighty animal and they're high energy and whatever, and you won't be able to trim my Arabian with the grinder. You know, they just won't tolerate that. And that's a bunch of hooey balooey. Okay? Doesn't matter if your horse's breed is Arabian or thoroughbred or whatever the breed might be, doesn't matter how high strung it can be, how much energy it can have, it's about confidence. If your horse is confident, they should be able to tolerate the grinder or learn to tolerate the grinder. So it's about your horse understanding the farrier, having good rapport with the farrier, and the farrier having respect and rapport for the horse. And so, you know, I really don't care what breed the animal is, and I don't really care how jumpy the animal is. It's about building trust, it's about building confidence, and that's what I try to do with these animals. The number one thing that you have to accomplish first is if your horse will not stand on a lead rope, dropped on the ground, ground tied, you're not going to accomplish anything. That's the number one prerequisite, and I use that prerequisite for almost everything in my horsemanship, with my own horses for trail riding or whatever we're doing. If your horse does not ground tie, you don't have that horse's respect, you don't have that horse's rapport, and you're going to have a difficult time getting anything done with it if you don't establish that first, that the horse can learn to be there with you and stay there with you. Even if there was fireworks going off or gunshots or whatever, all of those outside distractions are just that, distractions. If you have really good rapport with your horses, and they will stay with you. So, I'll get off my stump, and I hope this video has kind of helped you see what it's like to trim a horse for the very first time with a grinder, and have the horse start out a little bit jumpy and not confident with it, but then become confident with it, and how simple it can be. So I hope that's helped you, and I'm glad that I've been able to hopefully help you with another issue of the good, the bad, the ugly, and the real. And thanks for being here, and we'll talk to you again later.